Splatoon has been a big part of my channel since the beginning, and it comes as no surprise to see me excited when the Splatoon 3 trailer dropped at the end of the Nintendo Direct a few days ago. However, I couldn't help myself but be fascinated at what the story of Splatoon 3 might hold. The beginning of the trailer has the agent or your character resting for a while before sitting up and lo and behold an upside down tower. This has got a lot of theories and speculation going through my head in terms of what the story might be like. So sit down, grab some snacks, because we're gonna go through what the story might be like as well as possible theories. Before we get started and dive in, please consider liking and subscribing. It shows support, is free, and lets me know you don't want to miss any future content. The trailer starts off with a canyon with lots of mountain ridges. The next shot has rusted and destroyed train carts, warning signs, barrels, crates, and a desert landscape. The next shot is where we see an Inkling armed with a bow and a small fry for some reason. The Inkling is also wearing what appears to be a cloak. Considering the landscape we saw before, this can signify a more dystopian time frame, such as an apocalypse. I'll touch on that later on in the video. It is here we're able to select between different styles. I would also like to point out that you can select all hairstyles regardless of gender now. A very welcome decision by Nintendo. Going back on topic, considering the events of Splatoon 2 Octo expansion, either the Inklings and Octolings have established trust and peace in their society, or they could be teaming up against a much bigger threat. The description of the trailer also mentions battle-hardened Inklings and Octolings. Perhaps this barren wasteland was once inhabited and destroyed. You can also customize your small fry or little buddy's hairstyle. Pretty neat. Once you're all done customizing, we proceed to the next shot, where we see an Inkling jogging outside of their cover toward the canyon area. In the middle of it, we see an upside-down Eiffel Tower. After all, the story of Splatoon takes place after humanity and subsequent society was exterminated by rising tides. Sea life wasn't affected by this, and through evolution, the Inklings and Octolings came up to take over, along with many other sea creatures. Remnants of the past still remain in this world though. The infamous god, or the fax machine that bestows us Splatfest and it results through both games, Judd the cat who was cryogenically frozen before the world flooded, and the statue of David, weaponized by Taruto himself. This could be another remnant of the past, but that doesn't explain the metal barricading on the ends. One can easily speculate that it was put up to prevent Inklings and Octolings alike falling into the canyon. That, or something far greater took place here. The Inkling is also walking around a canyon instead of the usual single-player exploration we're used to. Perhaps we explore more of this world in this installment. The next shot backs us up as well, as it has the Inkling and little buddy waiting for a train to pick him up to take him elsewhere. Here we can see a city in the background. The train might be taking us to this new city, also known as Splatsville, as we see it in the background when we're inside the train. The same train might also take us to different parts of the world or modes this game has to offer. Here we arrive at Splatsville. Compared to Inkopolis Square or Inkopolis Plaza, this place isn't as pretty, vibrant, or as fancy as what we've seen before. It's more of a crowded urban environment. Apartment complexes with clothes hanging from the balconies, air conditionings on the sides of buildings, monorails, and even skyscrapers. It's a different approach from what we're used to. There's also an airplane flying over the city. It gives off a very dystopian-like feel, considering it looks dated, feels densely populated, and the description of the game doesn't help it either. Splatsville is called the City of Chaos, inhabited by once again battle-hardened Inklings and Octolings. Some might even say Splatterpunk 2077. And there's a fine detail that I almost missed, and it appears that the Inkling shirt is a bit torn. When gameplay footage is finally showcased, in a couple shots we get glimpses that the old weapons are being brought back to Splatoon 3. This leads to my first main theory of it being in a more post-apocalyptic or dystopian-like environment. In a post-apocalyptic setting, one might reuse and recycle old weapons and materials. In one shot, there's an E-Liter 3K making an appearance judging by its blue scope, a weapon that we have not seen since Splatoon 1. If you remember, Splatoon 2 was also based off of the events of Splatoon 1's final Splatfest, so there's a great possibility that Splatoon 3 is based off of Splatoon's 2 final Splatfest as well. In this case, Chaos has won the final Splatfest, and as said by Marina before, the winner decides to do whatever they want. So does this mean the city has plunged into chaos? We have to find out later on in the future. In tweets made by Nintendo, and I quote, "Research indicates that Splatsville's development has rapidly accelerated since the final Splatfest a year and a half ago, even though it's located far from Inkopolis." Also quoting from another tweet by Nintendo, classic main weapons appear viable in the Splatlands. Last but not least, we're wielding a bow in a desert environment. A primitive weapon. I cannot help but disprove part of my theory though. When we're first introduced to Spottsville, there is a plane flying over the city. There's also a train. Maybe the old weapons came from Inkopolis. How they were obtained when they're not sold originally is another question entirely. Moving on to my next theory, there is a new threat that isn't the Octolings for once. Why are the Inklings and Octolings together in a society and selectable from the start? Why do we have a little Salmonoid buddy by our side? Maybe we rescued or found our little buddy along our journey. If a Salmonoid is willing to be by our side, we might have nobody other than Mr. Grizz to blame. We know nothing about Mr. Grizz. The only time we're introduced to Grizz is by talking to him through a radio and being told to hunt golden eggs in the middle of nowhere in exchange for a reward. Do these golden eggs hold some kind of power that we don't know about? Maybe the ocean has been slowly drained by Grizz in an attempt to hunt for golden eggs. We might never know until more information comes along. Lastly, the land could have just ran out of resources naturally. The desert, great turf wars, and subsequent wars run down suburban area. It would make sense. As to what evidence I have to further support this theory, I don't have any. Those are all the theories and details that I have noticed when analyzing the Splatoon 3 trailer. If there's any interesting points that you think of or something that I didn't cover, let me know in the comments. The chances of me overlooking something or if my theories fall apart might be high. Regardless, I'm still excited for what Splatoon 3 might hold, and I'm sure the same could be said for many. If you're new to this channel and enjoyed this video, consider liking and subscribing. It shows me that you want to see more Splatoon related or more content from me in the near future, maybe even gameplay. Thank you for watching the entire video, and until next time, my name is Fanatical Light, and take care of yourself.